Okay, let's talk about my bleach blonde hair. This is going to be a short and sweet video because so many of you have asked me for so long how I get my hair blonde, what products I use, and what do I do to maintain it. First of all, there is an amazing stylist that's on TikTok and Instagram called Zach Mesquite. I'm gonna put his profile here and I'll link it below as well. But he is probably the best blonding specialist that I've ever seen online. And I agree with everything he says and everything that he does. He even posted a video about really tight, coiled, curly hair and how to bleach it safely today. And he's actually worked on celebrities, including wigs for Nicki Minaj, and he's literally lifted level 1 black wigs to platinum blonde. He is amazing. So if you're wanting more in-depth information, he is it. My natural level is really dark. I'm indigenous, I'm Cherokee, and my entire family on my mom's side is level 2, level 3 hair, which is almost black. Level 1 is black, and that my hair color is no different, and also green eyes, and my eyes change colors. My mom's side was green eyes, my dad's side was blue, but my hair is still very, very dark. So there's a couple of things that I can give you for ideas as far as how to maintain and take care of blonde hair and what I use. So I use Wella Blonder as my actual powder lightener, and it has like something close to Olaplex inside of it, but it has its own components, and it is the safest powder lightener on the market that I know of. And not only is it because it's professional, but also there's a reason that people will say, or stylists, cosmetologists will say, please don't go use box color, please don't use, even Sally's can be kind of scary. So with box colors specifically, like black box dye or anything that's box dye, not necessarily bleach, but if you go buy box dye at Walmart, the reason it's so bad for your hair is that it has really strong preservatives in it, because inside of Walmart, that has to have a shelf life of like 6 months, right? Or else they have to throw it away. And that is why when you put those molecules in your hair, you've probably seen them on TikTok, it is so hard to lift box dye out of your actual hair shaft with bleach and lightener. And the reason is because the preservatives keep that hair dye like alive and well for 6 months or more on the shelf. That is not good. Hair color is not supposed to be good for 6 months, right? Which is why when you're going to Sally's, it's a little bit more expensive, and when you're going to a stylist, it's even more expensive, because I think shelf life for stylist is like 2 to 3 weeks. Like, it's got a really low shelf life because it has to be used or it goes bad. The preservatives really aren't in there like they are on the Walmart shelf. So if you can only afford to do it yourself at home, do yourself a favor and at least please go to Sally's. At the bare minimum, please use Sally's dye, because it's a little bit better than store-bought box color. Now, when it comes to bleaching your hair and using bleach, I, was a baby stylist at 18, right? Like, I went to cosmetology school. I went to Warren Tech. At the time, it was one of the top cosmetology schools in Denver. And they had a program where you could enroll while you were in high school. So I actually went when I was 17 and I ended up graduating at 18. And essentially, when you're a baby stylist, you make mistakes, and I made mistakes. There's been times I have definitely fried my hair off. When I was doing cosmetology hairstyling full time, I was a blonding hair color specialist, but I also did crazy colors like rainbow and leopard print. My main stylist clientele was local bands, and my main clientele was like lead singers, drummers, and guitarists, right? Because they wanted the like crazy whacked out hair. And I was really one of the only ones at the time in Denver that did it. And I was really lucky because I got to develop this clientele of these underground like metal singers, punk bands, emo bands, what have you. So I really became good at hair color, and that's why I became so good at blonding and actually lifting hair color. And there's a lot of problems I see online. Like, for example, Brad Mondo, I watched a couple of videos like that popped up on my FYP the other day, and he had said something like, oh, she's using 20 volume, she should have used a higher volume. That's a huge mistake right there. And Zach Mesquite, which is the stylist I'm referring you guys to, he says the same thing. The lower the developer you use, yes, it might take a long time, but just let it sit on there. Like Zach Mesquite has said he's used 6% and even 20 volume, which it takes forever, right? But he can leave it on your head for 2 hours while the blonde process keeps going, because it's not going to damage your hair. The higher the volume, the more damaging your hair is going to be. And unfortunately, in cosmetology school, they also teach you, oh, when you're lifting someone that has a Hispanic heritage and they have a very dark hair shaft, always use 30 volume. Absolutely not. Please don't. Even if there's hair color in there beforehand, no, there's no reason anyone should ever be using more than 20 volume on their hair at any given time, period. That's all I have to say about that. In cosmetology school, they teach you the darker the hair is, the higher the volume you might need to use, or if you're using permanent color, always use 25 or 30 volume. That's not true. That is not true. And the higher the volume, the peroxide, that is what damages your hair. So never, ever, ever use more than 20 volume. They also teach you in cosmetology school that you should never use 10 volume with a bleaching process, and that's not true either. It will still lift with 6 volume, it will still lift with 10 volume. It might be slow, it might take a long time. Another thing you should never do with blonde is heat it up with a heater or a dryer. Now, some people do use like their red lights or whatever, you know, UV therapy to give it a little bit of a lift. That's okay, that's safe. But back in the day, especially like the 90s, they would have you under a hair dryer with this bleach on your head. And the problem is that most bleaches will expand when they are mixed with peroxide. And if you just keep having heat and keep having heat, that hair shaft is just gonna keep expanding until the hair literally snaps apart. That is why heat is so dangerous. Now, what I will do is I will bleach my roots and then I'll put like a plastic bag over my head, and that's it. That will keep the heat in, but do not heat it up. You do not want to keep expanding it. It will cause severe breakage. I do use a toner. So essentially I use on my own hair, I color my roots every 4 weeks on the dot. I mark it in my calendar quite literally. Unless I had like an abnormal amount of growth, I'll do every 3 weeks. It just kind of depends. I just watch my calendar, and I will add it just to the root. Another thing about Wella Blondor is it is one of, and this is also Zach Mesquite mentions this and he's right, it is one of the only bleaches on the market, period, that includes professional and Sally's and everything else. It is one of the only bleaches on the market that does not expand on your hair shaft. So if you've ever seen people get major breakage at their root, or even breakage on the ends, it's usually because, let's say you do a retouch on your root, right? And you just put the bleach on the root and then you put a cap on, but 45 minutes later, the bleach has expanded and it's moved up the hair shaft, and then that's what causes breakage, right? When you actually put bleach on top of a pre-bleached area, when it's already been bleached, that's what causes breakage. That's why I swear by Wella Blondor, because it doesn't expand, so you're not gonna have breakage, which is also why it's even more extra safe to use with 10 volume or 20 volume. And once again, Zach Mesquite has done this on his social media, where he has literally lifted a level 1 or 2 wig using 10 volume Wella Blondor. I always prefer the cream developer over the clear. You don't want to use the liquid, you want to use the cream developer. You want it as thick as toothpaste, essentially. And that's another problem, is that if your bleaching is not coming out correctly, it could be your ratio. So some stylists go to like, equal parts developer, equal parts the powder bleach. I go about, 1.5 developer to 1 of the powder bleach. So I want it a little bit more liquidy, but if you're being cheap, let's say you're being cheap and you're gonna add more liquid and you think it's gonna come out fine, it is not gonna lift evenly. So you can't just eyeball it. It needs to be about the consistency of toothpaste in order for it to work properly and lift properly on your hair. Now, when I do toners, this is another problem I have with Brad Mondo, because I don't know if it was interpreted wrong by everybody, but everyone thinks you can go to Sally's and get T18 and that's gonna fix your toner and that's gonna take the yellow out and put cool in. That's not gonna work unless you have lifted it to a white level. But I'm not a fan of the Sally's toners anyway. I use another Wella toner in platinum. I'll put a picture of it up here. Now, I'm a professional stylist, right? Like, I'm not telling you guys what to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really should go to a stylist. You don't want to get your hair fried off. If you do it wrong at home, you can screw yourself for sure. And, you know, but be brave, I guess, if that's what you want to do. And I don't knock people that do hair at home, because that's what I started as a stylist, right? When I went to cosmetology school, I was already doing people's hair at home and I wasn't licensed. You know what I'm saying? So I guess it starts somewhere at home, but just be careful, because if you're not using good products, that is where breakage can happen. And I have done it to myself, where I've literally been, and I've used bleach. I've literally been lifting my hair and bleaching my hair since about 6th grade. So I have used every single bleach on the market, and I'm not even kidding you when I say that. That includes store brands, that includes Sun-In, that includes anything at Sally's, and I only use Wella Blondor. So I hope that says enough. Once again, it's going to be pricey. I think if you're trying to buy it from, you know, a seller off Amazon, you're going to be paying a retail price, which is probably going to be $50 or $60 for the tub. It will last you for a while, but you just don't want to go cheap when it comes to blonding your hair. Now, another question people have for me is, if I have like dark lowlights in or a different color, or, you know, I go to my stylist and they say, I want to get blonde in one session. Is it possible? Yeah, it is, if you go to a blonding specialist. But the problem is, like, that isn't communicated enough in the community is there's a lot of stylists that are scared of bleach. And there's a reason for that. They've probably had really, really bad experiences with bleach. They haven't experimented with enough brands on the market. So yeah, if the stylist isn't comfortable with bringing you up to all blonde, can it be done in one session? Yeah. It's going to cost you a lot of money, and you're going to have to find someone like myself or Zach Mesquite to do it, right? Like someone that's confident in the blonding process and understands what they're doing. For example, Kat, you know, she had a terrible color correction that I worked on, and she had yellow and orange in the back of her hair, and we lifted her to platinum blonde in one session. But I didn't charge her because she's my sister. But if you're going to try to fix that in a color correction in one setting, that's going to probably cost between $600 to $900, because you're booking, like when I did Kat's hair and I did her color correction, it took me like 6 or 7 hours. And for example, most stylists will charge $100 an hour. If you're in their chair and you're taking up 7 hours of their day, which is another reason why most stylists can't take you in one session, right? Is because you're taking up 7 hours in their chair, and most people aren't able to pay the $700. So there's a lot of little pieces that go into it. Is it possible to do yourself at home? Yeah, but I would be really binge watching YouTube videos and make sure you don't screw it up, because it is possible to break your hair off. And I've done it to myself when I was a baby stylist. That's something you just go through and you live and you learn through it. Now, as far as maintenance goes with shampoos, do shampoos matter? Yeah, absolutely they do. And in fact, I live in Las Vegas, where hard water is a really, really big factor. So if you're seeing breakage, even if you have regular color treated hair, go on Amazon, buy yourself a water hardener kit, and you can test the water at home. And if you have hard water like I do in Vegas, we even have like a septum system. We even have like a septic system where it cleans the water. It doesn't matter, it's still hard. So I have to go in with my hair once every 2 weeks with Malibu, and you can get that at CVS or Amazon. You just mix it with a little bit of water or shampoo, leave it on your hair for like, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, rinse it out, and that will strip out all of those really yucky hard water cells that are on there. I also, every few washes, use the Malibu hard water shampoo. Because if you're getting out of the shower and your hair dries and it dries really hard and crunchy, that means you have hard water, and that means you need to get rid of it because it can cause breakage, and it can mean life or death with bleach blonde hair. Bleach blonde hair is fragile. Absolutely. You're taking molecules out which are going to make it just naturally weaker, which is also why you need to make sure you're using really good products. Now, for myself, I really prefer Pureology, and it's expensive. You know, I get to pay like $15 a bottle, but you guys are going to pay at Ulta, you know, $30 a bottle for Pureology. But I swear by it, and I won't ever use anything else again. It's literally saved my hair. So, you know, a lot of people get mad at stylists and they're like, you know, are they just trying to upsell us product? No, honestly. Now, are there good over-the-counter options? Yeah, if you guys want me to do a video about that, leave me a comment below and I will. But it's still not going to be as good as professional brand. And I mean, Redken's okay. It's another really good option if you don't want to go the pure. You just really need to try Pureology. I swear by Pureology. And trust me, I'm a stylist. I have tried everything on the market. I'm giving you guys free advice, and I swear Pureology will change your life. I use both the shampoo and conditioner for color treated hair. Now, another question I have a lot is about leave-in proteins, and I need you guys to really listen to me and beware. I know that T18 is a really big thing, and Zach Mesquite agrees with me on this again. There was a time in the 2000s when I was a stylist where everybody was using bedhead dumb blonde. That was the big thing, because bedhead was like it. And if you guys were emo back then, or like scene, you know what I'm talking about. But the problem is that bedhead dumb blonde had so much protein in both the shampoo and conditioner that if you overused it, you were going to start seeing breakage and you were going to go bald. And that also happened to me. That's why I think things like T18 should not be sold to the public. Anything with protein in it should not be sold to the public, especially if you have blonde hair, because you're going to think automatically, oh, I'm using this T18, it's making my hair smoother, it's making the frizz go away, it's saved my hair, I'll just keep using more of it. That's the problem. You should only be using protein masks maybe once a month. If you put too much protein in your hair through masks, it will cause your hair to break and it will cause you to go bald. And that education, unless you're someone that's a blonding specialist like myself, like Zach Mesquite, you're not going to be able to tell people that. It's another thing when you go to a stylist and, you know, every 6 weeks you're like, I want to do a protein, you know, mask or do like a specialty mask. That's safe when you do it that often, but you should not be using those products every day. It's going to cause severe breakage, especially because, once again, you think about the hair shaft. You're thinking about a blonde hair shaft, right? It is been stripped of all of its molecules, right? A hair shaft is a circle, right? So now you're pushing protein in it. You're pushing protein in it. Well, it's got the space for it because the molecules are gone. So it's going to keep expanding, and then it's going to just break. And that's the problem with protein stuff. Protein, anything you can put in your hair with protein, whether it's conditioner or a mask, please just stay away from it unless you're going to the stylist to have them do a specialty mask on your hair. How often should you get hair trims? I don't know if every 6 weeks is necessary, honestly. As a stylist, I would say maybe every 12 weeks is really about it, unless you're prone to having severe breakage or severe split ends. But I think 12 weeks is good. And depending on if you're growing it out, they can do a micro, you know, trim. That's what I used to do on my clients. Find a stylist that listens to you. Communication is key. Make sure you're communicating what you want and make sure they're repeating it back to you. Make sure you're listening. Make sure you're understanding what they're saying. But, you know, realistically, having blonde hair is very, very, very high maintenance. And the only reason I can have this blonde of hair is because I'm a stylist. I can't imagine, you know, spending the money that I do. If I had to pay someone to do it, it would be an ungodly amount. So just keep that in mind, that blonde hair is high maintenance. If you're one of those people that likes the seasonal stuff, where you're like, I want to be 100% fully platinum blonde in the summer, and in the winter I want to go back to like dark brown and caramel, no highlights, just pure, you can't. You know, it's going to keep damage. You cannot lift your hair for 6 months and then dye it back dark for another 6 months. You're going to have to find some middle ground, because that is what causes damage too, going back and forth so much. If you guys have more questions, leave me comments below. I really think that I kind of covered it for you. Saturation. Saturation is key. I see some of these videos where these people like put one little, you know, of product on their hair and they want it to lighten to blonde and it turns orange, because you have to saturate it. It has to be, when you're putting your hair like this right here and saturating it with bleach, it needs to look wet by the time you're done. And I'm fully, which is why sectioning is important. Small sections, section the hair in 4s, and then tiny, tiny, tiny sections, because people get impatient. They just want to paint it on. It's going to come out looking like crap. And then you're going to have to go, you know, pay someone to fix it, and it's going to cost you an ungodly amount. But, you know, if you're trying to find someone that does blonding, please make sure you find someone who specializes in it, because it is a different monster. And unless you've done it as long as me or some of these other stylists that are really confident in it, you can end up walking out with a really big mess. Don't ever use henna in your hair. There's natural henna, and that's better for your hair, but you can never bleach over it. You'll never be able to get it out until it grows out fully. And if you're getting synthetic henna, you're in trouble. And I've watched it happen in a salon I worked at. One of my friends that was a stylist did it, and basically this girl did not admit that she had used synthetic henna on her hair, and her hair started frying, like it was on fire. It started smoking, and all of it broke off to like this short. So be careful with hennas. Be honest with your stylist about what you're putting in your hair. If you're wanting to change your hair color, this is what I always tell people. Go on Amazon and buy a $20 wig and wear it for a week and see if you like it. And then that'll determine if you want to change your hair color or not. Because $20 is a lot cheaper of an investment than spending, you know, $400 to $600 changing your hair all to just hate it. So that's something I always suggest. Get a cheap bang wig for 20 bucks on Amazon, have fun with it, and then you can decide if that's where you want to go. But leave me comments below if you guys want to see another video on recommended store-bought products for you guys to help you. Always make sure you're using some sort of a heat protector when you're, you know, blow drying or styling your hair. And if you guys would like to book a beauty consult with me, you can on my website at www.crystalleandra.com. I've had tons of you guys book with me already. Usually it's an hour long for a chat and a consultation. We can talk about your hair, what you're wanting to achieve. We can usually answer between 6 to 10 questions in one sitting, and I always encourage you to create Pinterest boards that we can look over during the chat and consultation of what you're wanting to achieve and how we can talk about it. And that's it. I hope this helps. I love you guys. Bye.